Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Archant Towers here on this dark Friday evening. I'm not used to the time shift and everything. I hope you're all well. Welcome back after the international break. Hope you had fun. We did, obviously, and we are back fresh from Colney ahead of Norwich City's visit from Barnsley on Saturday, the resumption of Championship hostilities, which I think is fair to say given Norwich have lost their last 3 league games. I'm Michael Bailey, I'm with David Freezer, and we're going to bring you up to date with what happened at Colney and what was said and the key points. And I guess, Dave, as usual, we should start with the injury bulletin, because that basically took up the first 15 minutes, I think, of the press conference today, just catching up with how everyone is.
It did.
Can you remember?
Again, yeah, I mean, it seems like most of the press conferences this season, which probably reflects where Norwich are, we've spent so much time running through injury bulletins, which emphasises the fact that Daniel Farkas has had a lot to cope with. Headlines: Nelson Oliveira is fit for tomorrow. As most people have seen on Instagram and social media, he has been in Portugal and he's been working hard in the gym. He returned to team training on Tuesday, I think it was, and Daniel said he should be okay, although he obviously needs to get back up to form and fitness. The two worries are Jerome and James Maddison have both picked up knocks. Maddison came back with a hamstring strain from his England under-21s duty, so late fitness tests for them. He certainly didn't say they were ruled out or anything, but equally that it's not definite that they'll be able to be involved tomorrow. And clearly with Maddison, played a lot of football this season already, hasn't he? And you've got 2 games to come next week, at Forest and at home to Preston. So those are sort of the big ones. The other ones, we were sort of looking at the longer term ones, weren't we?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, let's just touch on James Maddison, because I think Daniel Farkas said it was great that he got called up for the under-21s, but ultimately probably could have done with a bit of a break, and the load had been a lot. He was in training after coming back with a tight hamstring, so fingers crossed he might be okay to play. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because they've got a midweek trip to Forest on Tuesday. They've not got many midweek games, so that might be the only one they've actually got in December. But they have got that one coming up before Preston at home on the following Saturday. So ultimately, you don't want to risk losing him for 2 or 3 games when he might just miss one or sit on the bench.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I was Daniel and I thought I could handle tomorrow's game without James, then I would. I think Forest will be a difficult game on Tuesday. Preston's a bit difficult to call at this point because their form is absolutely nosedived, doesn't it? So I'm not too sure what Alex Neil will bring to Norwich next week, because he's had no defenders available, has he? So no doubt they'll all be fit in time for Carrow Road. Yeah, that's the way I would look at it. I mean, Wes Hoolahan clearly probably isn't going to have 90 minutes in his legs, but him and Marley Watkins have both come back fine. They're available if needs be. They didn't play a lot of football over the break, but I just wonder whether Wes will have the bit between his teeth, because he'll be a bit annoyed about what happened to Ireland. They were thumped by Denmark on Tuesday night, weren't they? And although he came on at half-time with Aidan McGeady, they didn't have much chance to have any kind of impact on the game, because Ireland were just shot by that point. So it will be interesting to see whether Wes comes in, and from having a chat with one of the guys at the Barnsley end, it seems that Barnsley like to play a 4-1-4-1 formation, which is what we were expecting to see quite a bit under Daniel, wasn't it? It was what he liked to use at Dortmund. So I just wonder whether we might see that return tomorrow. That would seem to suit Mario Vrancic, wouldn't it? And if you've got Vrancic and Hoolahan in between Murphy and Wilskut, Oliveira up front, Tribal as the holding midfielder, I think that's a pretty decent lineup. Whether it'll work or not is another thing.
Always the way. Injury worry over Jerome as well, because he got a knock on his foot. And there is a big discussion there, I suppose, in terms of whether, likewise, you give Cam a break, although he's obviously had 2 weeks off, but you take care with his injury and you throw Nelson in. It does sound positive that Nelson is at least available, which is something we have been waiting for. I have a touch though of just waiting to see, because they hope they've got to the bottom of the problem, but I guess they don't really know yet until he gets a prolonged and run of games under his belt. I
jokingly said after the press conference, didn't I, that 45 minutes each, but it would almost be ideal for both, wouldn't it? But yeah, you've got maybe maybe think with Cam that you don't know exactly where Nelson is. Any game you play him in at the moment is a bit of a risk. So if he were to have another breakdown, touch wood, that's not going to happen. Then you're going to need Cam back involved very quickly. So in a similar way with Maddison, if you feel you can get through the game without using him, it would probably be for the greater good.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We'll see how Daniel Farkas lines up against a Barnsley side who, I mean, it's been an interesting international break, I guess, for them, given that Paul Heckingbottom's been linked with Sunderland, or now since effectively not linked anymore.
Sky reckon he's out of the running now,
which is quite a settling thing for them ahead of Carrow Road, sadly, because I guess some people would have probably hoped that they would have been stirred up a little bit.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, you're going to have the presence of Cameron McGeehan in their team as well, which is going to be an interesting one. I'm sure he'll get a good reception, and by the sounds of it, he is pushing for a start, and we know he's going to be very fired up for that. And we know with Barnsley, similarly to last season, when we saw certainly the first half of the season when they still had Conor Hourihane, they had Marley Watkins, Josh Scowen. They are a club without too much in the way of resources, so they are a tight unit. They're going to make every game you play against them difficult, and you can be sure that they will turn up here on Saturday and give Norwich a run for their money. As ever, recently, you would have thought if Norwich can get the first goal, which obviously hasn't happened too often. I couldn't believe it's September the 9th since the last win at Carrow Road.
Indeed.
I mean, that is just 2 months. It's just crazy.
It feels it, and obviously there's a lot of discussion over why that is, and also how it improved. And I tried to kind of get to the bottom of that with Daniel and Angus Gunn, who seemed to be on quite guarded media duty possibly today. I don't know. Obviously a lot's gone on, and we'll talk about that in a moment too. But clearly, Daniel Farkas said he had several topics that he wants Norwich to improve at home, including improving defensively, stopping the mistakes. But I also want to see them move the ball a lot quicker, and he wants more precision in their final ball. But I think there just generally needs to be a quickening of the tempo, because everything was slowing down at home. And again, he expects Barnsley to be a side that are going to sit in and invite Norwich on a little bit and play on the counter, which is something Cameron McGeehan told me as well a few days ago about how Barnsley would probably set
insight.
up. Yeah, probably not much of an insight, because they've been pretty good away from home, so they know how to do it, and they did it like that last season as well. Yeah,
they've won 2 on the bounce as well, haven't they? They won at Burton, which isn't easy because they always set up to be difficult to beat, and then they beat Birmingham as well before the break. So, yeah, I mean, obviously there's the technical sides of things, but I asked Daniel, is there just a determination with him and with the squad to get back to winning ways at home? Because we've spoken about feeling sorry for the fans at home, because for all the things that have happened away from home and all the adventures that the away fans have got to enjoy, there's a lot of season ticket holders who are just sat there thinking, when are we going to see this team turn up then? And it's about time they did. And Daniel agreed with that. He said, I think the phrase he used was, yes, we're 100% determined to get back to winning ways. So that's what you want to see. You want them to show that they're fully aware that they have got to stop that run of losing 5 games. Off the top of my head, I think they haven't gone 6 games without a win at Carrow Road since 2001. So I will double. Oh no, I have got that here. Start of 2001 it was. They went 6.
They went to the playoff final that season, David. Could be a lucky omen.
There you go. No, it's to a season before that, isn't it?
2001.
Yeah,
sorry,
so that's Brian Hamilton.
That's my hearing.
We don't want to get into those sort of rounds.
No,
we
don't want that to be an omen. Let's be perfectly clear. Make sure you get your messages in. We'll be with you for another 5 minutes or so. Lots of comments about my beard. Yes, we raised £600 for it, which is brilliant. Apparently, it's gone.
Oh, then just know.
I don't even recognise what I look like. Never mind what you might be faced with. So there we go. Tell us where you're watching from. It's always good to hear. Craig Brown, Hanley should be given a chance to play with Closer on Saturday. It's an interesting one whether he does make changes there, isn't he? And we did the PinkUn Show at the weekend. The PinkUn Show on Wednesday. And a couple of people there were saying let's see Hanley play alongside Tim Closer. I think now's the time. Otherwise, you're going to get to the point where Grant's going to start saying, "Look, what am I doing here? I came here to play." And Christoph Zimmermann, as well as he's done, has played a lot of football. I think it's about time to give Grant a chance. Stephen Noakes says the issue of strikers discussed. I mean, I think there's been a couple of bits online about how Marley Watkins is a striker, which I think is a given that he can play there. But I don't know whether he'll come into the equation against his former club, of course. Should there be an issue with resting Cam or Nelson up top? But I know not a lot of people aren't necessarily convinced. Some think maybe we'll see 2 strikers up top on Saturday. And we did see that at home to Wolves as well.
Yeah, started up top against Wolves, didn't he? So
and then had Jacob alongside him, Josh Murphy alongside him for a fair chunk.
But the problem with that was that we didn't see them play to his strengths at all, did we? If he's going to play as a striker, he's a man who wants to be on the shoulder, who wants to be getting in behind the defence, and he's not going to hold the ball up for you in a traditional way. I mean, Cameron Jerome doesn't really want to hold the ball up in a Grant Holt style way, does he? That's not really his game. He would rather have a run at defenders and try and cause a bit of havoc. So that comes down to how they play. But I think we all know that if with the players they've got, if you can get Nelson Oliveira up front fit and on form, then he is going to link with players like James Maddison, Wes Hoolahan, Alex Pritchard, who hopefully isn't going to be too far away. Then we know that that's going to link up better than probably Jerome and Watkins would with them.
Craig Brown says Zimmerman and Close are both very poor against Bolton. Both could be dropped after that defending, but also start with Josh Murphy because he did score against Bolton and we need him for tomorrow. Josh is an interesting shout, especially given just before the international break he was fighting against a broken toe and tonsillitis and all sorts of other things. It's
been ridiculous that first third of the season, really, isn't it? And yeah, him and Marley Watkins did actually have a decent impact on the game, and they could have drawn it at Bolton, just down to those two, really. So I mean, Marley nearly scored on his Wales debut. He only came on for, I think it was 20 minutes on Tuesday night, but he nearly scored late on. So yeah, he's going to have the bit between his teeth. He's going to be on a bit of a high. So it feels like things are in a better place. Certainly now we're coming out of the other end of it. And Daniel was certainly smiling today, wasn't he? He was in a good mood. He actually said that when talking about Nelson Oliveira, that he was in a good mood because Nelson had looked good in training and is looking like he's fit.
Interesting point here from Oliver Scutt. A month ago, I'd have said the next stage during international break would be adding some creativity to the strong team defending and work ethic. Now, though, after being punished for the profligacy, I wonder if the focus has altered. And it was interesting. One of the first thing I asked Daniel Farkas, what do you want to see different that means that Norwich can improve their home form? The first thing he said was we need to knock out the defensive errors, which, obviously most goals tend to come from a defensive error usually, but clearly he wants that. And
he mentioned that word brutal again when it comes to finishing, doesn't he? They've got, as I did a piece during the break, there's only two teams who have been more wasteful in terms of the amount of chances they've had and the amount of goals they've scored, and that's Bolton and Birmingham, who are both struggling at the wrong end. So if that doesn't improve, then this season isn't going to turn into a playoff chase. Simple as that.
Indeed. One thing that might well help with some of that, of course, is Alex Pritchard, who is a lot closer. I mean, there was a lot of positivity in the injury bulletin, really, wasn't there, with Jamal Lewis and Alex Tetty. Hopefully when we get to December, both will be coming back into contention. Stephen Naismith is going to be a little bit longer out, according to Daniel Farkas, but Alex Pritchard is the one, really. He could be playing for the under-23s on Monday.
Yes, they've got a game at Wolves Monday night in Premier League 2, and they're not certain yet, because it's still probably day-to-day with Pritchard at the moment, isn't it? And there were some nice quotes from Daniel, actually, saying that, or comparing Alex Pritchard to a wild dog, or a young dog, sorry, and saying that it's like young dogs, they want to be a bit crazy and a bit wild at times, and sometimes you have to let them. So by the sounds of it, he's been letting Pritchard have a bit of fun in training, and he said it's great to see him smiling in training, and that he looks in good shape, but he's been out for a long while, so I think they're probably just having to try and hold Alex back a little bit, aren't they, and just say, look, steady on, you have got to get some minutes in the tank before you can get back in the first team. But he also said when you're such a good player, you can very quickly look like you're back up to speed in training. So I think Alex is going to be, really straining at the leash to get back into the team, and fingers crossed if he can play. He said he won't play 90 minutes at Wolves if he does play on Monday in the under-23s, so you're probably looking at maybe 30 minutes from the bench tops, but if he can get another couple of games in, maybe they'll need to arrange a sort of behind closed doors game or something like that. You never know, he might be back in contention for the bench by the start of December, which would be a huge boost, wouldn't it?
It would be, indeed. It'll beg the question of how he gets put in and where he fits in that, but that's for another day. Steady on, now's your chance. I thought you were going to get on to Steady on, now's your chance. They're going to go full on the ball city there for a moment.
It's just flowing.
They're flowing out. We should touch. We've got to speak to Angus Gunn. It's obviously been a phenomenal week to 10 days for him. You can watch his clips of his press conference, loads from Daniel Farkas, all on the PinkUn YouTube channel right now and pinkun.com, so head over to the website and you can see the key points that were said during the press conference this lunchtime. We did get a lovely anecdote from Daniel Farkas, which is also up there now, about Angus Gunn. hotel bathroom slippers and having legs like Kate Moss. I mean, I don't really think we can talk about it because I think you need to see the anecdote.
I think you should just leave it there and let people go and find it, because we won't do it justice.
Enjoy it. It's Daniel Farkas at his best. Other than, of course, hopefully coaching a football team. So, in terms of Saturday, what are we hoping for here? Does it have to be 3 points, given where things are?
Well, I mean, it's in terms of the league and the whole season. No, I mean, a point isn't the end of the world, but clearly the home fans want to see a win. 2 months without a win at home, very few goals scored as well. It's one of those where you just want to kind of see them go for the jugular straight away, and they tried to do that against Derby, didn't they? And it just didn't work out. Hull the same way. They were doing really well early on. They've just got to take their chances. It's as simple as that. And Nelson Oliveira's got 6 in 12 if you include his goal for Portugal as well. So he is the form player. He's the one who hopefully can make that difference. And they've just really got to go for it and show the fans that they know full well that they've got to get back to winning ways. And yeah, if you can get 6 points out of these 3 games which are coming up in whichever way, then the season is moving in the right direction, isn't it?
Well, you mentioned the September the 9th, wasn't it, when they beat Birmingham at home? Nelson Oliveira got that goal, and that's the first time they've led at home since, the last time they led at home. And as Daniel Farkas himself said, I think if Norwich have got ahead in a game, they've won it, basically. It's back to how it was with Alan Neil a couple of years ago, because it was a lot like that first goal being so crucial. It does seem to be the case with how things are set up for Norwich this season.
That was in the 3rd minute as well, wasn't it? Tim Closer turning that corner back across goal, and Oliveira poking it in from about half a yard. Hey. So
everyone took it.
I don't think it was going in though, so I think he did need to make the touch.
Yeah, no, it was Nelson's goal, yes, definitely.
But yeah, that shows how long people have had to wait. And you're right, there is that sort of sense of deja vu, because there was that part of Alex Neil's reign in the Premier League, wasn't there, when that game at Newcastle, when they were trying to get the balance between attack and defence, and that game when he took Alex Tettey off and then they got thrashed at Newcastle. And ever since, it's felt like Norwich have never really settled on an equilibrium where they can attack and defend, perhaps other than when Alan Irvine was in charge, but of course there was very little pressure on things then.
Yeah, indeed, we can't judge too much on all that. A couple of questions about January and strikers, asking if we feel that they need a striker. Let's have a look at that. I think Jason Hayden asking that, Matt Gibson too. Personally, I'm not entirely convinced they do need a striker without letting someone out first. I don't think they'd buy anyone anyway in January without selling someone. I think they do have enough options, but it's how they utilise them, and I think that's still the kind of work that needs to go on around the squad from Daniel and his coaches. Personally, I know that a lot of people don't share that view.
I can see the logic in it. I can see why Daniel doesn't want a big squad, and why they think that managing a lot of players can be difficult, because that's true. But if in reality they don't have the money to really bring someone in, so you're looking at perhaps a Premier League loan, in which case I don't see the point. Bring Carlton Morris back from Shrewsbury. If not, sell Carlton Morris and get another player in. I don't see the point in bringing in a Premier League loan. So unless the form continues to sort of nosedive between here and January, I don't think they will. And if they're going to, I'd like to see Morris given a chance.
Which might happen. They've got recalls, I think, and options to have a look at them in January. It's just whether they decide that them being out there for the rest of the season might be.
I mean, Godfrey's deal is only until January anyway, but apparently I had a look at the loan rules with the FA, and with a season-long loan you do have the option of a January recall, but equally with the current rules you're only allowed to play for 2 clubs, I think, aren't you, in a season. So I think the chances are that Carlton Morris will come back here. He can't play in the FA Cup, of course, cup tied. They'll have a look, they'll see what they think, maybe he'll be involved a bit, and then if they still don't think he's the man, they can send him back to Shrewsbury for the rest of the season, and they will very gladly have him back, as people will have seen in our sort of loan review in the PinkUn last weekend. Yeah,
indeed, things are going very well. Okay, so Stephen Noakes says it's going to be a win, and he says it's going to be 2-0 to Norwich. Barnsley haven't won at Carrow Road since 1937. Sorry, I'm just recalling stats. I mean nothing by it.
Yeah.
Do you want to give a prediction, Dave? Or?
I'm going to go for a Norwich win. I'm going to say 3-1. I've got a feeling that
3-1.
Yeah,
3 goals.
We can't continue with things just going the same way. I don't think. I think something's got to change, and I've got a feeling that there was a nice nice positive mood there today, that there is going to be determination in the team, and if they can get that goal, I think Barnsley are, with the instability of Paul Heckingbottom this week, I think that they probably won't be able to fight back if Norwich can get in front. So again, that is the key: get in front early doors.
A scratchy 1-0 win.
I'll take it.
Everyone would take
Everyone
it.
would
There we
take
go.
it, yeah.
So thanks very much, Dave. Thanks all for watching. Really appreciate your questions. We'll be back online on here in probably late morning or lunchtime time, probably. I'm committing to it now, aren't I? To preview the game again, and hopefully we'll have Paddy in tow at some point. And of course, we'll bring you all the team news live on the PinkUn Facebook page. If you want to catch all those press conference videos from this afternoon, just head over to pinkun.com, and they will all be there. And the PinkUn YouTube channel, you can subscribe to that and then get notifications for when all the stuff goes up. Until then, have a lot of fun, and we'll see you on Saturday. Fingers crossed for a positive result.